The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Sonic Web Studios specializes in custom web design, app development, social networking, search engine optimization, domain registration, email marketing, online stores, and more. Since our birth, we have been designing and developing immaculate websites and providing web solutions which are a cut above the rest. As a leading web designing enterprise, we have a team of extremely talented web designers who are well-focused and have the experience of working on multiple web developing platforms such as PHP, Magento, custom WordPress, and more. Sonic Web Studios has been helping businesses of all kinds, whether big, small, established, or startup, impress their audiences with exemplary web solutions. We don't just create beautiful and functional websites. We give you a complete online solution with the main goal of enhancing your yearly revenues. We aim to give your business the online exposure and brand acknowledgement that will help you in achieving increased conversions leading to profitable sales. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention the Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level.
Voting just isn't going to the polls on Election Day anymore. Options like early voting, mail-in voting, and ballot drop boxes are available to more voters and are growing in popularity. How to Vote, a tool created by Democracy Works, breaks down the options your state offers for casting a ballot, empowering you to decide when and where to vote. Democracy works best when we all vote, but misinformation and confusion about election procedures have resulted in low voter turnout. How to Vote, a tool created by Democracy Works, takes the guesswork out of the voting process. How to Vote is an easy-to-use and help folks from all over the country overcome many of the process barriers to voting. Democracy Works is committed to helping you vote, no matter what. Their tool, How to Vote, does just that. You can sign up for election reminders, see what's on your ballot, get step-by-step assistance requesting your mail ballot, explore your options for returning your voted mail ballot, check your voter registration status, find your polling site, and make sure you have the appropriate ID. Decide when and where you'll vote this year at howto.vote. That's howto.vote. Even though this is a presidential election, there are many more candidates on the ballot besides the president. Go to Ballot Ready for a nonpartisan guide to your entire ballot. From there, you can compare candidates based on stances on issues, biography, or endorsements, and then save your choices to use when you vote by mail or in the voting booth. You can even request your absentee ballot or make a plan to vote early on or election day. This election matters. Make sure you have a plan to vote and vote informed. And this year, with changes to polling places and vote by mail laws as a result of COVID, it's more important than ever to have a plan and vote. Local elected officials affect our lives every day. They decide who to prosecute, monitor the quality of our drinking water, and choose the leadership of our schools. 30% of voters take time to vote and then leave some part of their ballot blank. This is a missed opportunity to choose the leaders of our communities. It's okay if you're unfamiliar with some of the more local positions. We recommend hosting a ballot party. Get together with friends over Zoom, split up the research, and go through the ballots together. Go to ballotready.org and enter your address to make a plan to vote and vote informed. That's ballotready.org.
The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Sonic Web Studios specializes in custom web design, app development, social networking, search engine optimization, domain registration, email marketing, online stores, and more. Since our birth, we have been designing and developing immaculate websites and providing web solutions which are a cut above the rest. As a leading web designing enterprise, we have a team of extremely talented web designers who are well-focused and have the experience of working on multiple web developing platforms such as PHP, Magento, custom WordPress, and more. Sonic Web Studios has been helping businesses of all kinds, whether big, small, established, or startup, impress their audiences with exemplary web solutions. We don't just create beautiful and functional websites. We give you a complete online solution with the main goal of enhancing your yearly revenues. We aim to give your business the online exposure and brand acknowledgement that will help you in achieving increased conversions leading to profitable sales. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention the Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level.
It's now time for the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, iTunes, Anchor FM, Radio Public, and themikewagnershow.com. Mike brings you great guests and interesting people from all across the globe. So sit back, relax, and enjoy another great episode of the Mike Wagner Show.
Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable, custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support at sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, on the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at facebook.com/the Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, and over 25 podcast platforms. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Also follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with a wonderful lady who has been on my show, and she was just terrific, or should I say I was on her program. And she hosts the Hollywood Red Carpet Radio Show. She's also one of the hosts on Paranormal 13, and she's also a paranormal expert, and she'll give you a great story on how she got started. Very well known along the East Coast, and just working her way through just getting the word out about paranormal. And she's worked with a number of paranormal hosts, including Kadrosha Onokero, who was on my show. And I'm just so excited to be talking to her this time. And last time she was talking to me, we had so much fun, and we're going to do it again. And it is just a wonderful ghostly experience. Ladies and gentlemen, live from the Plush Studio, somewhere in the East Coast, ladies and gentlemen, host and paranormal expert, Debbie Perkins. Debbie, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Mike. That was lovely.
Oh, it's very lovely, too. So basically, we're going to start off that you began your paranormal. It's in Florida as well, too, and you started, picking up some more events. You were at a house, and you first got started in radio. You're asked by a lady from Tennessee to do a radio show as a co-host, and you've also been doing USA Paranormal Radio, Hollywood Red Carpet Radio, and Willie Windwalker Show, and a lot more. And before we get into all that, hearing about your amazing stories and being a host, tell us how you first got started.
I think the paranormal was something that I was looking into on an educational level. I had some experiences in my youth, and those experiences led me to want to know some truths about the other side at the time. And I joined a group, and from there, I was shunned in the group. And they were they were doing it for different reasons, let's just say. And I don't drop names, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say that I left that group. I ended up creating my own group, which was called Main Extreme Paranormal. And then I started doing the research within the group at very historical locations in my area. And I wouldn't say the first, but I was one of the first in my area to be legitimate, to do the work for the right reasons, I want to say. A lot of people thought you could get rich and be famous. And trust me, there is no income when you're helping people. But because I did, I'm grateful for all the help that I've received, because it was more than just me. I worked with other teams and cooperatives. Those cooperatives actually led me to being filmed. And then I understood what it was like a little bit to be on camera. But then again, we were doing the research. We were looking at the videos in a different light than to look famous. We were looking for anomalies and oddities and anything out of the ordinary, anything unexplainable. And trust me, you have to do things in a way where you take it all at face value. Because when you're doing the field that I'm in, there will be a lot of people that will come to you and they will ask for your help. They still to this day ask me for help.
Mhm.
And I help them as best I can. It's just part of who you are once you do something that's helping the public. And some people have stranger cases than you've ever heard in your life. I discovered that on the USA Paranormal Radio show. I began that in 2009 with another person, and she talked me into it, and it was a fluke. I decided to do it with her. She's an amazing person. At the time, she was teaching me, but then she decided that she had a different road to take. So she changed avenues, and I continued forward. And when she left, I had an assistant named Keith Page. He runs the South, it's a convention down, it's called Mid-South, down in Kentucky in Louisville. He ran the biggest convention down there. And I became friends because I interviewed him and many people that worked with him, different avenues of the paranormal, because he ran such a big thing. Now, Willie Windwalker, I took him on in 2011, and I produced for Willie till 2016. Willie stayed with me all those years. I also produced a gentleman who was a psychic medium. He didn't like to be called a medium or psychic. He liked to be called a healer. His show was called Across the Divide, and he was in Northern England. And I produced him for not a very long time, but I did learn a lot from him. And then another psychic lady from Connecticut. And when I was doing this, it became a lot. Overwhelmingly, producing everybody's show, trying to do my own. So yeah, Mike, it's kind of a roller coaster ride from the start. But I was very fortunate to be able to win some awards for radio. Never expected anything like that in my whole life. And then because I did, I got to be in a magazine. I got to be Miss February in the Paranormal calendar for 2013 for women.
Wow.
Most influential women in the field. Mostly because I believe that if you're honest with people and you don't keep things from them, you don't put them in a situation where they have to bring in a demonologist to get rid of whatever it is you brought into their home. And it is done on a metaphysical level, but we also work very technical. So it's a combination of using your own body as a tool, but also I have used many ghost tools. The electrical EMFs, the K2 meters, the infrared, all of those tools and they're making new ones every day. Mm-hmm. I think some of them are a waste of money. But you know what? That's what they want. I always say, do whatever you want if that's how you feel comfortable. But when it comes down to technology and actually explaining away the photography, we all look at, was it edited? Was there anything added or subtracted from this image? A lot of people were adding spiritual hologram type setups for their photography. And back when I started, people were getting caught and they were laughed at, they were ridiculed. Today you can't tell because everything's on a digital level.
Uh-huh.
It really is. But there are benefits and minuses to that. The fact that everybody's doing everything on you can take your phone and just download a ghost app. Mm-hmm. That's an entertainment thing. That's not a real ghost app. Mm-hmm. A real ghost app doesn't exist. You are the only one that can probably come up with whether or not things. Well, for one, you got to debunk everything. Mm-hmm. It's just a fact. Mm-hmm. But I took my original TAPS class. I took the TAPS class, which was a woman from sci-fi, from TAPS. The people from Rhode Island. They have the ghost show, or they did. They do different ones now. but I took the class back in 2006 from Kristen Garland. She was one of the original class people. I don't think she did too many classes after. I never saw anything else posted, but I took her class because I wanted to know the answers. I actually spent a lot of money meeting all of the TAPS people from Sci-Fi Ghost Hunters. I met Jason Hawes, I met Steve Gonzalez, Grant Wilson, Dave Tango, multiple times with Bruce Tango, because Kenosha owner and I did some events together, and Bruce came to, a couple of those. And he's very close with her, and he was really nice with me. I actually met John Saffis, who's the humanologist that's out of Connecticut, and he was the nephew of Ed and Lorraine Warren. And in 2010, I delivered what would be considered as a haunted mirror. And it was from a home that had an investigation done by a team called Paranormal State. Lorraine Warren was one of the team members, and a man named Chip Coffey. Chip went on to have his own show. Lorraine Warren, if anybody is wondering, and you haven't seen The Conjuring or the Amityville Horror, her and her husband Ed did all the investigations for those particular cases on top of multiple others. She was one of the most world-recognized psychics of her day. John is their nephew, and John was on those cases with them. Well, I delivered this mirror to John's occult museum, and he was going to bless it. It was an extremely heavy mirror. It was given to me from this lady, and I delivered it. Well, I invited myself to John, and he said, yes, come on down. So we did. My friend and I drove down to Connecticut, dropped off the mirror with him, and he was filming his documentary, World Within. And this was in 2010. And John, of course, said, would you like to be in my documentary? And I said, you don't have to ask me twice. And he was very gracious. And I also ended up getting a lot of really nice connections from being associated with John, and he's associated with TAPS, and it was all a win-win. John went on to be the haunted collector. I'm not sure if that was on Sci-Fi or not, but anyways, I'm still friends with them. Close with his sister. I'm not going to drop names because I love my friends.
I mean, who doesn't? That's the thing. So,
well, because I don't want her to be like bothered too much, because she's a sweetie person. Mm-hmm. But I did do a couple of road trips with my girlfriend there, and we went to a Halloween contest that they had at TAPS. Had a place up in New Hampshire, which is called the Spalding Inn, and they bought it, and they did. I went there for a couple events, and that's how I got introduced to paranormal radio, because I wouldn't say young, but a gentleman was doing a radio show, and he was interviewing Steve Gonzalez at the time, and then he interviewed John, and at some point he interviewed Jason Hawes, but I didn't see that one. Mm-hmm. And I sat on the couch, and he put the headphones on my head, and I became part of the show for a moment while Steve was talking. And of course, I was thrilled. I'd never had that experience. It was, that was 2009. 2009 when that happened. And I was just so overwhelmed that this man of multiple years puts this headphone set on my ear, and I'm extraterrestrial for a minute. And it was so, I was so over the moon. I can't, I'm sure you understand the feeling of your first moment on the radio.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it sounded like it too when you talked about the headphones. You think something paranormal is coming out. But there was one thing I was going to ask you too. What was that one moment that precisely influenced you into doing paranormal practically full time? I mean, you had a great story. You've been doing this for a long time. But what was that one precise moment or a ghost hunt that made you say, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my career?
I think when I was a teenager, I had a magazine fly over my head. I was babysitting in a very old house. I bet it was as old as my home. My home's 214 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And this house was had a graveyard in the front of it, but I never gave a mind to it because it was a good paying job. And the people were wonderful, and they only had 2 kids. And the house was huge. So the kids went to bed. They were, I don't know if they were bratty or they were just, kids. And I was just a teenager, but I was 16. And my dad died when I was little. So I always believed in the other life. I always believed that he was around me. And then when my grand passed when I was 12, I always thought, Grammy's right there. I'm not worried about anything. Everything's great. Coping with the losses of people that are supposed to be right by my side my whole life.
Uh-huh.
Well, because of that, I always wanted to believe that there was another place for us. We could stick around our loved ones if we needed to or if we wanted to. I just wanted that closeness. Does that make sense?
Right. Exactly. I know what you mean.
So,
that you wanted a companionship. You're right.
And because of that, I was more open, maybe sensitively, because when I was 6, I had an experience in Florida in St. Augustine at the fort. And that man in the grave, in the cell, reached out to me and begged me to help him. And I was 6 years old. I looked at my stepdad and I said, he needs help in there. He wants to get out. And they all came and looked to see, if it was a person or a mannequin. And they had already looked in the cell. They knew there was nobody there. And there was no mannequin. There was no person. It was just like a bunch of hay on the ground. They said, oh, stop talking. Come on, And coming from a big family, they didn't really believe too much of what you say when, you got so many voices around you. So I kind of let it brush off. I didn't give it a second thought. But when I was a teenager, babysitting at that home, kids went to bed. It was after midnight. I was sitting in their living room on the floor playing an album called Fleetwood Mac.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if people remember that, but I was listening to Fleetwood Mac, and I was sitting like Indian style on the floor, and a magazine flew out of the magazine rack over my head and landed behind me.
Ah, that's a good song, Over My Head, by the way. Did you play that song, Over My Head, while the magazine flew over your head?
Isn't that funny? Maybe, I don't know. It wasn't my album, so I'm assuming that the spirit heard it before. But what happened was I got up, I turned every light on, and I didn't even dare to check the kids. This is sad. That was a terrible babysitter. I didn't even go up this little narrow, tiny hallway up the stairs. They had 2 sets of hallways, like most old farms. You got 2 sets, and I didn't dare to go up the stairs. I'm like, kid's dead. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm so afraid at this point. Then 2 hours later, the people came home, both sloshed out of their gourd, and they said, "Why are all the lights on?" And I said, "Well," and I never touched the magazine. I left it where it was. And they both laughed at me. And they said, "Well, you met my grandmother." And I said, "Well, she could have been a lot less sullen." Just saying. I'm trying to watch the kids here, and I got a spirit throwing magazines over my head. Well, of course, this happened when I was a teenager, Mike. So what I did was, one of my friends and I were going around, and we were logging lost cemeteries, just ones in the middle of the woods with no way to know about them unless they were logged. So we were doing that, and then I happened upon that house again, and it was not a big deal. And we're in the cemetery, and we're looking in it larger than it was. And I said, "Geez, I don't remember it being so small." Well, the man that I babysat for come walking up, and it was, I want to say October, and he was hunting. He was in his orange, and he says to me, "Hello, can I help you?" Because it's right on the front of his lawn.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Do you remember me?" And he said, he looked, and I said, who it was, and then he goes, "Oh, yeah, because I babysat for him." he had to give me a ride home. And I said, do you remember that night that I had a fright? And he giggled again, and he said, yeah. And we still have the spirits here. And this is a man who works for CMP, which is a Central Maine Power Company. He works for the big company. And I'm thinking, okay, well, if he's believing it, there's got to be some truth to this. And come to find out, he settled the spirit in his thought process or calmed him down, as he said, when the kids grew up and he enlarged the cemetery to add a baby that had been born out of wedlock, and it was buried on the outside of the gate.
Mm-hmm.
He actually enhanced the size of the fencing so that the baby could become part of the cemetery, and then they blessed the ground, which I thought was ultra sweet. I mean, but this man him and his wife are both wicked nice people, so I knew that, you know, they're just a good energy, good people.
Nice. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, weird stuff, everybody. This is weird stuff. So, but it's wonderful. It's got a blessing behind every single thing I've ever done.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like it too. We'll talk about more about your adventures as well too. We'll talk about your Hollywood Red Carpet Radio, Paranormal 13, and more. But first, listen to the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at Facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, and over 25 podcast platforms. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Also follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with podcast host of the Hollywood Red Carpet Radio Show and paranormal expert. She's also the award-winning host of Paranormal 13 with Kadrosha owner Carol. It's on the Mike Wagner Show. Debbie Perkins, live from the East Coast. And before we get to talk about some of your accomplishments in podcasting as well, too, let's talk about some of your ventures as well, too, in the paranormal. You know, visiting houses and just interesting things that go on as well, too, along the paranormal. What would you say your best stories that you've encountered, the best houses, and what would you say maybe the ones that are more challenging? And if you want to throw in something, maybe some funny ones that you really encountered that just made people laugh.
Well, it's a combination of different things, Mike. I did co-ops with another team, and the house that I got the mirror from was one of the smallest homes I'd ever done. I did it with a cooperative of Maine ghost hunters. They were a team up here that were very reputable. They were more on the tech side, but they did have a psychic medium who did automatic writing. We were experiencing some odd things all night long at that place. You could hear everything from footsteps. People were experiencing energies outside. Some of the images on the pictures that we had received had shadow figures, like physical shadow figures. Someone hanging in the barn, which we knew was nobody was in there. We all knew where we all were at all times. One gentleman started getting really strange. We didn't understand it, but I caught him on video, just kind of going crazy. I didn't know if he had medication he was missing or what, but he ended up having to leave. He actually got taken out to the road, and then he ended up leaving because he just said that he was having a bad experience. So them videos, you can see them. I believe it's called it's on Maine Ghost Hunters YouTube site. You can see that. You can still see the mill agent's house. That's one of my favorite ones, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Agent's house up in North Bassboro, Maine. Probably one of the coolest, beautiful homes you've ever seen. It was a mill agent's home. it was also home to a doctor who did what we would say is illegal practice to women at points and times. And he also, I'm sure, did some on the up and up scales. But of course, I went there not knowing where I was going with another lady. And when we got there, MGH said to me, whatever you have for experiences, please make sure you get it on camera. So, of course, we're going to do everything we were all learning at that time. But I ended up having an experience, and I had a vision, and I told the owner and the MGH team leader, Tony, and I was telling them as I was feeling it and seeing it in my mind's eye. And the owner's jaw hit the floor, and he said, "Oh my gosh, she knows exactly what happened." And I said, "No, I do not. I do not know. I didn't do a history of it. I didn't."
Mm-hmm.
And come to find out, my visions were of multiple women's faces were rotating to different faces, and they were being held down by a lady in white and a man in white and blood.
Oh,
and
my
kept
goodness.
Thinking this was an odd couple. I'm thinking that the energy from this couple is an odd couple. And so I'm saying as I'm seeing. And so, and in the room that I was in, I'm like, I don't get this. I'm not really comfortable. I'm feeling sick. And so the owner eventually, before the end of the night, did tell me that the doctor and his wife performed illegal abortions in that room.
Oh my goodness! I was just going to ask you about that. It's like, what was the meaning? Like with several heads, one woman's body, another person. I was going to ask you about that. Maybe almost like a dream interpretation. That's what it sounds like.
What it was, and I've been doing that since I was a teenager. I'm not really comfortable doing that or feeling it. But usually if there's a message behind it, I pass that on and I just get it out of me. I get that energy away from me because I no longer need it. It's not mine. A lot of times it's just a message to pass on to someone else. But I've also met multiple psychics, and they just say, I have a gift, but yeah, I don't live vicariously through gifts. I am me. Mm-hmm. And if I come to a location and something happens, that it happens. It's just a natural process. I don't beg for it. I mean, yes, I'm there to kind of ask for it. But I'm also grounded, Mike, and I believe very much that God has got me in his little clutches, and he wouldn't want me to do anything that I'm not able to do. But I have captured some really amazing images, and one of them was, well, actually, multiple were put into two different published books, and one of them was called The Paranormal House, and the other one was Tales from the Night Shift. And those both were written by a lady named, Sybil Howe. She was a really nice woman. She had asked me for images that I had, and I was more than happy to share with her, and she put them in her book to go with her stories. I thought that was really cool. And then I worked with another lady who was, she wrote a magazine called Idea Gems. And I actually got her 19 different paranormal research people, teams and whatnot. And I sent them on to her. She chose 10 of who she liked. And I was one of them.
Nice.
And then she put them all in magazines, did all their bios and everything. Mine included, and one of them was a lady that was from Portugal, and she spoke Portuguese and did not speak English. But when I interviewed her on the show, she got an interpreter 2 different times to do 2 different shows with me, and she had the most interesting stories I'd ever heard. And they were, and let me tell you, when you're able to do what we do, and you might come across somebody that doesn't speak the language, and we get an interpreter, be so surprised what we can learn. It's been so amazing. Mm-hmm. I don't even know how to tell you. It's been, and I still to this moment do it. Every year I volunteer to do events. I volunteer to do one at the Red Church, which is a 200-year-old church, in a classroom upstairs, and I help a lady named Julie Walker, and she does this every year, and I help her. I help anybody that wants people to learn. I teach the dowsing rod. I teach the K2. I teach any tool, but I also teach them to use themselves as well, as because your energy is just as good as the dowsing rods.
Mm-hmm. It sounds amazing too, and I noticed that you're also practicing Reiki Master, card reader, and Ghost Hunter as well too. And what else do you also practice, like tarot card reading, and what else do you practice that goes with it?
Viking runes.
Uh-huh.
I read Viking runes. That was inspired by the tarot cards. I got my first deck, I want to say 29 years ago. It was a round deck. I'd never seen a round deck in my life. I always thought they were square. I always thought gypsies read tarot cards. Or seers. I didn't know that I could. I thought it was interesting though. I mean, what a fun trait. Kind of like some people when they discover a Ouija board. Now, me, I'm smart enough to stay away from that thing. But tarot cards, some people believe it to be similar to the same, but personally, I do not. I can't tell you your future, but I can tell you what the cards are telling me to tell you. And sometimes it's a warning. Sometimes it's heads up. They let you know directions, but you can't predict what's going to come. A lot of people think that, oh, geez, if I have this question, it's going to be a super clear, perfect answer. Well, it's not always like that. Because one thing I learned about the cards is your life is hundreds of aspects to it. Mm-hmm. And there's, from everything you do, from the time you open your eyes to the time you close your eyes, is a lot of things. So the cards sort of pinpoint in a roundabout way about different things that only you know. And I always told people, whenever I read for you, this is not for anybody else. That's why I read privately. I prefer to read somebody privately and not have anybody else's interference, because their energy sets things on. I want just energy from the person that I'm reading. I've read online too, and I just let them concentrate at specific times that I will be concentrating. And then the same thing with Reiki. You pass the energy at specific times. Reiki is a whole different game. It's more based around holistic healing and transferring your energies from your top chakras all the way down, off and out your body on both sides, front and back. And when you do, I have a massage table, and it works best when you have nice clean energy. But it's mostly to help people heal in the mind, and then physical. It's metaphysical, I guess. But it's a lot of enjoyment. People get a lot of enjoyment out of, for one, the relaxation. I recently did Reiki for somebody over the internet. Mm-hmm. And she had given me the best response, but I don't share that information with people because it's my gratitude that I helped her feel good for that, for this time. It's got nothing to do with somebody else going, oh, look what she can do. No, it's not about that. It's about me connecting with someone else and helping their energies, their negative energies, no matter where it is in their chakra, from the top chakra all the way down through your heels. All this energy is basically being brushed away. You want to keep pushing it down. And there's a lot to it, Mike. Maybe I can do it for you sometime. It's a lot of fun.
Okay. I was going to say, are you want to do one now or something, just as demonstration, or like at another time? It's like, how do you want to do this? I'm open. So
I would like to do it in private with you, because it's just you and me and the energies and your chakras. And for one, you need to be in a concentrated, it sometimes takes 20 minutes to an hour, depending on what you need. Everybody has pain in certain areas of their body, and it's for healing. And I think that what we do can help if we can help another person to cleanse their energies, even by helping them, with their chakras, just basically helping them cleanse them, then great. But if, there's a lot of things we can do to help other people, whether it's lending them an ear, just don't shut people off if they're asking for help. That's my motto, but I'd like to do it with you not on air, because there's a lot of people listening. But if anybody does want to ask me to do it for them, I'd be more than happy. And then they can give you the feedback.
Okay. Well, that'd be great. I was going to ask you, how do people get a hold of you, say for a reading, consultation, advice, and what have you? How do people get a hold of you?
Usually just get a hold of me. I don't know. I was doing free readings for a long time. And some people, I would always get overloaded with people asking for me to do a reading. And it takes 20 minutes to do a good reading for somebody. That's just a fact.
Okay.
Anybody can do past, present, and future, but that really is not answering any questions. So I do a Celtic cross, and sometimes I'll pull an angel card, or along with the Renaissance cards, I will pull I can't even think. I'll pull an angel card. I'm looking into getting new cards as well. There's some more out there that I don't know if they're going to be as good, and I never know until I get. But I probably had 10 different decks.
Okay.
Like I said, I started with a circle deck, and that was the hardest deck I ever had to use, because not only were you interpreting the images that you see within the card and the person you're reading for, but wherever the card lands, if it lands a little to the right, if it lands a little to the left, in the positive, and then if it's negative, it could land a little to the right, a little to the left in the negative. So then you had to interpret that on top of the image, on top of the person, on top of the card.
Okay.
So yeah, it was not the easiest deck, but I've had multiple decks since. I just received a deck that I bet it's 100 years old. It's in French. I can't understand the letters, but I know the cards.
Mm-hmm.
And I know images on the cards. But never have I told anybody they're going to be rich. But I did tell people they were coming into money, and they did. And they came back, and they just jumped up and down with me for a minute.
Huh.
And I warned a woman about a fight that was going to happen at her job. 2 days later, called me up and said, "Oh, that woman." So I have been called by a lady from, well, I won't say much about her, but I was called by this lady. She was having issues with the police, and she was having, they were really serious issues that she was having. And I gave her the best reading that I could. And she kept wanting me to give her more and give her more. But sometimes the cards literally stop.
Mm-hmm.
They've given you enough information. Now it's up to you to determine where it fits in your world.
Right.
And a lot of people will tell me a couple of days later, you were so right about that. I did a case down in Maryland for a producer, and I did 4 cases for him. And this was down in Maryland in Poolsville. And one of the cases was the first store that ever was built into that town. And this is right near Washington, D.C. And then the second building was a shoe store, the first shoe store. And then a post office. And then the third place we went to was a equestrian farm. And the fourth place was a restaurant. Now, each case that I got to do, I didn't know a thing about it. And I'm grateful for that, because I don't like knowing where I'm going or what I'm doing until I can do, give out my information, my energy feeling when I get there anyways. But in Poolsville, when I did these cases, I had a lot of unique experiences happening to me. One of them was I was in the cobbler house. I was choked in the middle of the night. I was vomiting. I didn't understand what was wrong with me. Now, I didn't know anything about it at the time. Then at the equestrian farm, I could visualize a woman giving birth and dying. I actually wrote down 11 names while I was in a timeout. Let's just say the other actress was doing her bit in the house. I was on the lawn by myself.
Mm-hmm.
I just said, if there's anybody here, just give me names of whoever is around. I wrote 11 names down. I handed those 11 names to the owner. He recognized 7 out of 11 names immediately.
Wow.
And said to me, and then the producer wanted it. And I said, I'm sorry. This is for her. It's up to her. If you want that, ask her. That was for her. One of them was her deceased brother she'd been talking to for weeks.
Mm-hmm.
In her pictures, she'd say, well, geez, one day I'd be like, oh, Antonio, this, da. Okay. Now, I understand that. And she did. And it was really nice. I was glad to give her that. But I experienced bodies stacked in the basement. Lots and lots and lots and lots of people that died. Couldn't understand why. Now, that home was a building that was actually left standing after the Battle of Ball's Bluff.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that was a 24-hour war that happened. Well, I'd say the war was going on anyway, but this was a little battle. And it happened for like 24 hours. Lots and lots of people died on that property. The house was a makeshift hospital.
Oh, wow.
Oh, tell me about it. How do you think I felt? Because they didn't tell me anything at the time. The last place was a restaurant. And I kept telling them, they left me alone so the other actress could do her thing. While I was downstairs in the restaurant section, the whole place was a restaurant, but I was closer to like the kitchen area, the dining room, what would have been the original, probably kitchen for the house, back a couple hundred years ago. Anyway, so I was given a book by 2 older ladies, and I packed it away. And then they were filming upstairs, and then I heard a lot of giggling, so I knew that they were done. And I kept seeing a little girl looking out the window. No problem. Little girl just looking out the window. I knew I could see her there. I could describe her clothing. Pinstripe, blue and white dress, and she had like really curly curls, and she was watching for her dad. Her hair was in 2 ponytails on both sides with big ribbons. She was beautiful. She was a beautiful child. And I was telling they were filming me on that. And I was telling them where she was standing and everything. Well, when I got on the plane the next day to go home, I opened the book and started reading it. And there was a little girl in the window, always being seen. There was the Ball's Bluff house. And these women did the stories on these houses before we went, way before we went there, to each location. So I thought it was really weird, but I was happy that I helped all those people. And I was really glad that I was right about a lot of, because you don't know. I mean, I don't know. I didn't know. I kept asking, can I go in the basement? And I said, well, if you want to, there's nothing down there. And I said, it doesn't matter. I want to get the feel of the place from head to toe. And in the second story, I was seeing people in bandages, one in a wheelchair. And I kept saying, was this a hospital? What kind of house was this? Bodies stacked in the basement. This just doesn't make any sense to me. So long story short, Mike, I had a lot of visual experiences at that location, which were beneficial because I think it helped the owners, as far as I know.
Mm-hmm. That is something. I mean, you got some great stories, you got great advice, and you're very willing to help a lot of people. And where can people reach you at? And what is the website for people to check you out?
I really don't have. I used to have websites, but I don't have those anymore. Tell them to just go contact you, Mike. You can get a hold of me. They can
don't give out my personal number. I'm kidding. So, and of course, they can message you as well too. They can check you on Facebook, and they can check you on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, everything else. So, and of course, we'll go over talk about how we can reach Debbie, and we'll also talk about her special radio and TV shows, and also some movies and more. But first, listen to the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com. It's powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look on a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on themikewagnershow.com. You can check our Facebook page at facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, and over 25 podcast platforms. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Also follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here, paranormal expert and radio and TV host Debbie Perkins here on the Mike Wagner Show. She shares some of her amazing stories on the paranormal, and also she's talked about, how to detect spirits and how to advise and what to look for, and just had some just amazing stories that, she talked about. And not only she's also a paranormal expert, she's also a radio and TV host. She was on U.S. Paranormal Radio, started in 2009. She was on the Hollywood Red Carpet radio show. She got that going in 2012, which I was on early as well, too. And also, she's also a host with Kadrosho Ona Carroll, the Paranormal 13 News as well. And tell us all about your wonderful adventures being on radio and TV. They're amazing.
Well, I don't think it started out like, I expected. I didn't ever plan on any of it. I wanted to help so many people that I was asked to do these things as far as the events go and filming. I got to be in a paranormal documentary from a professor at the university, which I've lectured for her class for, I want to say, the last 7 years. I go in October and I do a lecture on paranormal to her class, and it's a lot of fun to interact with her students. But she also did a documentary in 2014, and it was at a place down in Massachusetts called the Stone Cottage, and the Hutchinson family singers that lived in this home. It was off limits for 5 years. It was closed up by the town. It's at the bottom. It's in Lynn, Massachusetts. Now I'm getting it right. There was a hill where there's a tower built on top of the hill, and most people can see that when they're in that town. They know where that is. Mm-hmm. So I ended up doing a film called The Paranormal, and I was filming with a couple of students, and we were down in the basement. Now, mind you, this house is falling apart. The only thing left is the stones and a little bit of the wood, because the place was literally so dangerous. Trust me, Mike, you wouldn't have walked in that place without holding hands with everybody. And we were
makes me not want to go there automatically. Thank you for the heads up. So
beautiful place, but it was a big family of folk singers that went around and they sang for the public in theater. And they were wonderful. You can Google them, and they were quite an interesting group. But it was one girl, and the rest of them were all sons. And so we were in the basement area of that home, and I was doing what's a ghost box session. Ghost box is just a radio that transmits signals, and it will basically, they believe that if you catch spirit, it will come through and it will be clear and it will be similar to the same voice, and you'll get information as you're asking questions. And the more questions that seem like it coincides, they would like to believe that is communication. So I ended up, let's put it this way. I kept getting a woman come across saying, I can't tell you the secret. I can't tell you. Don't go in the woods. I can't tell you the secret. I had no idea what the heck that meant. So here I am going, oh, no, I don't want to know the secret. I just want to know who's here, what type of spirits are here at this home. Totally took an off guard. So we took a break, and the kids went one way, and I went out to the producer and the director, and the town man, the man who let us in the building. And I said, well, geez, he's like, how you doing? And I said, I'm getting a lot of weird voices coming across. And it's just, one lady's like, I can't tell you the secret. And he's like, oh my gosh. So he knew immediately who I was talking about. It was a psychic medium named Mary Pritchard back in the early 1600s.
Oh, wow.
That lived at the very bottom of the hill. There was 2 different stories on how she dies. One of them is she was beaten by locals who didn't believe her, and she was an old lady. And the other one is that she died of natural causes. Well, hopefully for the second one, I better. But he kept saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're in contact with Mary Pritchard. Now, of course, I didn't know who Mary Pritchard was. My ancestors grew up around the Mass area and migrated here, but I didn't know anything about the whole thing. So I got home and did some research and found out that she was quite a woman. She used to tell people, apparently there was a story about a pirate burying a treasure. Now I'm telling the world. There's a pirate that buried a treasure in the Lynn Woods in Massachusetts, and it was from a Spanish ship. And then he died. Well, a man actually believed the story so much that he literally built a house and dug a tunnel. And this is all fact. You can actually find this out. Built a tunnel. And then he turned around and he never did find the treasure. Mm-hmm. Nobody has. But apparently a lot of people would go to Mary Pritchard and ask her where the treasure is buried.
Ooh.
So she can't tell the secret. Mm-hmm. So she can't secret. And that was one of those, and it's funny because here we are trying to investigate the family that lived there, the folk singers, and turned up getting a psychic that lived at the bottom of the hill. Now at the top of the hill, which is right behind the house, it's a graduated like cliff, and it's all rock, and then there's the tower. Well, prior to the tower, back in the old days when Mary Pritchard was still walking and the Hutchinson family was there, a man had hung himself in the tree. Another man had gone to the top of this hill and created the very first ghost machine. It was supposed to bring, yes, it's true.
Ghost machine, interesting. And you thought, you heard on cartoons, it's like an actual ghost machine, and maybe, I guess the question is, it may be obvious, but you have a different perspective. How does a ghost machine work?
It works. It kills people.
Including me? You'll have to ask me 100 years from now. I'm kidding.
What happened was, I think people were getting electrocuted from the thing, and it really was an epic fail for the guy, but he really believed that he could bring forth the spiritual energies, which I think it's kind of like, hey, you know what? He was trying something. So many people throughout history have had paranormal experiences. I mean, on my USA Paranormal radio show, I did win a lot of awards for that. And what I did learn was that everybody everywhere in the world has experiences. And sometimes people want to talk about them, sometimes people don't. But if they're having negative energy experiences, that's when you reach out for help. Some people just want to know what's haunting their house. Because I literally sat in a house, and it was a beautiful old home. It was a mansion, and it was the people who actually ran the cemetery. I was just trying to do an event and get my permission. Well, I'm sitting there talking with a man, and the lights flicking on and off and on and off. And I looked at his wife and I said, "Is that normal?" And she says, "All the time. The doctor's here. He's just letting you know that he's here." And I thought, oh my gosh, how weird is that? It can be very odd. People look at me, even my own family has said to me, "Why are you doing this? You know, what's the purpose?" And I said, "I don't even know. It's just a calling. It's what I do." I met Kadosha Ona back in 2000 and I want to say 2000 and maybe 9.
You say 2009? Yeah, it's interesting because you mentioned Kadosha Ona Care a lot. How'd you guys first meet and collaborate?
we got to take a boat ride to a fort, and she was filming Adventures, Paranormal Venture. I don't know what the name of her program was at the time, but she was filming, and we met up. I told her about a beautiful place called Fort Gorges, and we went there for the day. She did all her filming, and then we just kind of enjoyed the place, and then we got picked back up by the boat, and we had to make it had to be a perfect setup, because if not, the way the wall is that you have to climb off the boat onto the wall can either be too far down and you don't get on the island. There could be so many ways of not actually being able to be on that. Does that make sense? Like with the ocean had to make the difference. But no, we did a few events after that. And I mean, I want to say maybe about 7 events, maybe more. But we traveled up and down New Hampshire. We did a lot of different. She did a lot of first timers. A lot of her events were very first timers. No one else ever did. So it was nice to be a part of that and help people, because people that came really, really took a shining to us all. All the people that she had that were team leaders, and they were all professional in their own right, and we all did something different. No two of us are the same when it came to teaching. We all had our own techniques and our own abilities, but yet people really enjoyed working with us, and that's including other teams. A lot of times other paranormal teams joined us. We went to New York. I want to say, well, one of the paranormal team people came to meet me. I had the show at the time. And then another group came to meet us all and just be a part of the Shanley Hotel. We ended up doing it like a dedication to one of the paranormal researchers that had passed away. She taught the deaf paranormal research. So we honored her. I actually had interviewed her on the radio. So her voice is still on my show. You can hear her, even though she had died. Actually, quite a few people, sadly, since I had my show, have passed on, but you can still hear that voice on the radio, and I think that's pretty neat that we have that ability by doing the shows. We give a voice to so many people, and even after they're gone, like Gary Carlo, he was an amazing singer. He sang "Na na na na, hey hey hey, goodbye." I met him on a trip with Kadosha Ona to the Chiller Theater, and when I met him, he was all infatuated with what she was doing, and it was so nice to be able to talk with him. Such a gentleman, down to earth man, but yet very legendary for his music. But yeah, I mean, I guess it just follows the way it's supposed to, Mike, and we just go with the way it is. But I feel like I've done a lot of good in the field, and I feel like my reputation is still very strong. Some people call me grandmothered in. That's a pun, it's not a pun on my age. That's basically means that I've been doing it long enough so that, I'm not one of the new people coming up. And I'm grateful to help anybody that's coming up who needs it. But I do see a lot of people coming into the field thinking that it's going to make them rich and famous.
Right.
I know Kadosha Ona still does it, and she does it differently than other people because she's taking it to another level. The other people that are doing it, they're just hoping to get some money out of something, which is really kind of sad.
Right, exactly. And of course, just like anybody in podcasting, you expect $1 million off the bat, be on a radio or TV show first thing. Yeah, you're going to be disappointed. I mean, take it from experience. And where can we find your award-winning Paranormal 13 news special report? Where can we find that?
That is on the Queen of the Paranormal website.
Queen of the Paranormal website. Okay, we'll take a look at that. And also, you're also host of the Hollywood Red Carpet Radio Show, which I was on, and it's widely popular. You've had some great guests on, and tell us all about the Hollywood Red Carpet Radio Show.
Okay, that started in 2013. Well, 2012. I got the idea to do something different because, of course, I was doing USA Paranormal Radio. I had won 4 awards at the time. I was really happy. I was doing really well. I invited an actor to my show, and they said, "Oh, it's a paranormal show. Nope, I don't want any part of it." And I got so upset, and I was bummed out, and I was like, how can I do this? How can I interview this person that I really would love to interview? Because I had an interest in that person, and I figured if I have an interest, other people would too. I had already interviewed Cleve Hall, Monster Man. I've interviewed Jonathan Moody, and a lot of these people that I had interviewed were directors and producers. H.R. Mahaloff was an actor in the slasher movies. Rick McCullen, Hollywood actor, and Dee Wallace. I interviewed her. She was in E.T., Cujo, Howling. I mean, I'm talking Scream Queen, some really amazing people. Okay, so here I am interviewing these guys. Now I'm trying to interview somebody that isn't quite paranormal, but I'm interested in them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they said no. So I had to think, how can I change this? How can I reformat myself? And then I had to write a plan. There was no just thinking it and doing it. I wrote a plan. I didn't include anybody in on it. And then I went right for it. I started the Hollywood Red Carpet Radio Show strictly for actors, directors, producers, musicians, entertainment. I've kind of veered off a little bit here with a politician, but he was asking me to come on. So I made it set up for him, but I didn't put him on the Hollywood Red Carpet. I actually ended up putting him under I'm sorry, I'm talking about paranormal so much. The Politician's Corner is what I called it.
Oh,
which was
really?
An area.
Is that another podcast you have, the Politician's Corner?
Not really. It was just a place for me to put the politician because he wasn't an actor. He wasn't any entertainment in that direction. He was a politician. So let's just say I did it so I can interview politicians, but it's not my thing.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Now, is it where he's running for office, or is it just talking about his career?
He was running for office in New Jersey, and he was a really nice gentleman. He actually had a huge audience that was listening to him at the time, and that was, I want to say, a couple of years ago. I did that on Dragus Productions, which is where I host my Wednesday shows, and on Thursday and Sunday, I'm now branched out, and I'm doing it on Blog Talk again. I was on Blog Talk from 2009, and then I got off Blog Talk for a bit. I took a hiatus because I was filming movies, and
really?
I was doing all kinds of stuff. I couldn't balance everything at once. I had to focus. Yes, I was in a couple of movies. I was in a slasher thriller where I'm on the cover. I was murdered violently. Loved it. Had a blast. Never thought I'd have so much fun dying.
A cut above the rest. I could see that. A cut above the rest.
I was stabbed to death.
That was a cutting edge joke right there. That was cutting edge. I got to say that.
You're crazy. That's funny. So what I ended up doing was I drove home with the blood all over me, in my hair. I got blonde hair. So the blood's in my hair, the blood's on my face, the blood's on my shirt. I mean, and it's gooey and sticky, and I don't know if you know what acting blood is, but it's the grossest stuff. It tastes too sweet to drink. So, but here I am. I've got blood all over me. We just shot the scene. I'm driving home because I got to clean this off. It's sticking in my hair. Well, I'm driving home. It's about a half an hour drive to my house. I'm following a Jeep with 2 kids inside in the back seat of the Jeep, and they're looking at me. And I'm driving behind them, and I can see them looking at me in a panic. because I look like I was just. I mean, I'm talking blood. Like, I kept the shirt from that scene. You never know. But I ended up making. I guess they took off. They said there's a woman behind us, all bloody. Ah! They took off. I don't know if they thought I was a zombie or what, but I laughed so hard knowing that. Oh, how sad for those kids. They'll have nightmares for the rest of their life. They saw a woman.
It makes me think of Beetlejuice. Surprise!
It was really funny, the way it worked out.
It sounds like to me,
really...
yeah. It sounds like you end up with a natural talent, something you'd expect. And speaking of movies, you were in The Taker, Sins of Mortis, John Zaffe's World Within, and Paranormal Experience, and also some other films. And tell us all about those.
I was invited to be in The Taker. That was a thriller. A girl had been captured and kidnapped. She was tormented. I was part of what was called the Hive. I guess it's an extra, but not. I mean, we had lines, we did things, but we did them on I swear to God, they picked the coldest night of the world to do them in Portland City. It's the city area where the buildings are big enough, that they could use little alleyways, and they did it in an hour where they didn't have to get permits, and there wasn't a bunch of people walking around. But yeah, I couldn't believe how cold they were filming. I felt bad for all the actresses and actors, but you know what? Yeah, we had to do it. And we did it, and everybody was great. They were all super nice to me. Marquise Grant was the director of that. He's now since moved down to, I believe, Texas. And he's still doing more films. But he was really fun to work for. Nice guy. Let me see. John Zaffis' documentary. That was kind of a, hey, Deb, do you want to be in my documentary? And I said, yep. And then I did apply to be in a movie, which was Sins of Man, Rise of Mortis. And that's the one where I was stabbed multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
And my name was Tammy James. And I actually got a chance to help the other actresses and actors. They were younger people. They were like just out of high school kids. And we just practiced lines. We did table reads, but we also practiced at the locations, just helping them to kind of fine tune it so that they sounded real, so that they would, where the camera would land. I learned a lot when I filmed down in Maryland about filming and about how lighting has to be, because I was one of the people, not only was I being filmed, but I was holding the gray thing that adds the light. I don't even know what it's called. That's how I was, but I was one of the guys doing, because when you work with a small crew, you do what you got to do. You
right,
help
exactly.
Every way you can. And that's pretty much how it is. Just like if I was invited to be in another film, I wouldn't have a problem doing it. I don't mind small roles, because I think big roles tend to take 90% of your life.
Well, thanks for the heads up on this one. I'm fine where I'm at. Thank you, and many of us.
Yeah. But I do learn a lot. I did learn a lot from doing that, and it made me a better host for the show, because now not only did I do interviews with people, I kind of know what they're going through on a smaller scale, but still similar type of scale.
Mm-hmm. And that sounds amazing too. And where can we find the Hollywood Red Carpet Radio Show, and also where can we find your movies at?
Okay, Hollywood Red Carpet Radio Show is on Dragus Productions, the Josh Who Television Network. It also airs on Pyramid One, Infinity One in Australia. It also, once it's a podcast, becomes uploaded to Cloud Mix, to Vimeo, and let me see. I should have wrote all this stuff down. Isn't that terrible, Mike?
It's okay. It's called the internet. It's called the internet. People can Google as well too. So you have nothing to worry about if you forget.
It's
So don't worry.
Yeah, archives.org. And those are the Wednesday night shows. And on Thursday and Sunday, Blog Talk has iTunes and multiple platforms connected to Blog Talk. And I'm very comfortable on Blog Talk because I've used Blog Talk for many, many years. And I know it's legitimate. It's a good network. There's usually no hassle, no stress. Show comes off professional and well done. I do run a clean show, though, Mike. I want all ages to be able to listen and maybe learn something.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's important as well, too. And we have a few minutes with radio TV host and paranormal expert Debbie Perkins here on the Mike Wagner Show. You've been very fantastic, Debbie. Look forward to having you on again. And just a few more things here. What can we expect from you later this year or into next year and beyond? What can we expect from you?
You know, that's going to be paranormal, Mike, because I never know. It's one of those things. I'm filming with Paranormal 13 News, and I got 4 episodes that we've got to work on. And we already put out 4 episodes on Roku, Comcast South, and but they can look on the Queen of the Paranormal website and learn all about that. Let me see what else. I do got a couple of paranormal convention I'm going to be going to, and the Comic-Con, and of course looking forward to doing another volunteer with the paranormal, depending on the covert, you know, and how it works out for the rest of the year. That's what I'm looking at right now, Mike. But I'm just going to keep pushing forward and enjoy people like you being on my show and some talented guests. You know, it's a lot of fun learning about people and what they do. And I want to thank you for being on my show. You are an amazing guest.
And thank you very much, Debbie. You've been amazing as well, too. And just a couple of things. I wish we could talk longer, but then some people have to run for coffee and everything. But or chasing ghosts or getting rid of spirits. It's like, hey, stay away. I'm trying to listen here. So who do you consider biggest influence in your career?
Anyway, I got a show tonight and then on Sunday. So I got Nick Payne coming on tonight, and he's a musician. But what'd you say, Mike?
Oh, okay, yeah. Who do you consider biggest influence in your career?
Buddy Sawyer.
Okay.
Buddy Sawyer. I ran into him the night before. He was a local newscast guy. He always did all the radio shows. He was even at the races. He was the voice you heard. Ever since I was a teenager, I heard this man on the country music station, and on Sundays he did the swap 5-song swap. I ran into him the night before I did my first show, and I told him, "Oh my gosh, Mr. Buddy Sawyer, you're so famous. I'm so happy." And I gave him a hug, and I told him I was going to do a radio show, and he told me I was going to be successful and to keep up with it. He was proud of me. He didn't even know me, and I was just so happy when I walked away from that. I knew I was going to be in radio after that moment. That man has since passed, but his presence is forever. And if you ever look up Buddy Sawyer from WKRP, WKRP, what am I saying? I'm lost. I don't know where I am. I'm on WKRP in Cincinnati.
I'll send some radio spirits out to help you as well, too. So let's get the radio spirits into Debbie right now. So
yeah, maybe that's what it is. I got a show in about another hour. But yeah, Buddy Sawyer was my guy. He's no longer with us anymore, but what a huge, amazing, super down-to-earth, sweet man. And thank God for him.
Mm-hmm. That is amazing. What's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
Keep moving forward. Never quit.
Mm-hmm.
Don't take no as no. And if you get an opportunity to do something great, do it. If you can help somebody, do it. There's never anything bad coming out of doing something good.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's great advice, too. Once again, radio, TV, podcast host, and paranormal expert Debbie Perkins here on the Mike Wagner Show. Debbie, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely fantastic. Looking forward to having you again soon. And once again, tell us about your upcoming projects and how do people contact you and where can people check out your programs, including your Hollywood Red Carpet Radio, also Paranormal 13, and some of your movies and more.
Hollywood Red Carpet Radio is airing on the Blog Talk Radio. you can go on there and you can find it just by typing in. I usually put out once the show is created, it goes up on my Facebook page. It goes on the guest page. I actually am doing the Paranormal 13 news, so they can check that out anytime with Kadosha Owner's page, Queen of the Paranormal. I never know, Mike. I'm just got so many things going on at once. It's just one of those things where if the world slows down, it might fall off.
Mm-hmm.
So let them check out the shows, and hopefully everybody enjoys themselves. And that's what we do this for, so that everybody can enjoy the shows that we put out. And that's one thing I love about radio is there is no competition. We are all out to entertain the public, especially during this time.
Yes, that's very true. And once again, Debbie, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely fantastic. Looking forward to having you again soon. Do us a favor, keep us up to date. We'd love you to have back on sometime this year, next year, and beyond, and keep us up to date. You've been absolutely great.
Thank you, Michael. You have a great night, too.
The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Sonic Web Studios specializes in custom web design, app development, social networking, search engine optimization, domain registration, email marketing, online stores, and more. Since our birth, we have been designing and developing immaculate websites and providing web solutions which are a cut above the rest. As a leading web designing enterprise, we have a team of extremely talented web designers who are well-focused and have the experience of working on multiple web developing platforms such as PHP, Magento, custom WordPress, and more. Sonic Web Studios has been helping businesses of all kinds, whether big, small, established, or startup, impress their audiences with exemplary web solutions. We don't just create beautiful and functional websites. We give you a complete online solution with the main goal of enhancing your yearly revenues. We aim to give your business the online exposure and brand acknowledgement that will help you in achieving increased conversions leading to profitable sales. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention the Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level.
Thanks for listening to the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, Anchor FM, Radio Public, and themikewagnershow.com. Please support our program with your donations at themikewagnershow.com. Join us again next time for another great episode of The Mike Wagner Show.